The influence of the Greater Will and the control of the Golden Order has left the lands between shackled, a world stagnant, verging on chaos. Tyranny beckons change, and change is achieved only by those who dare step into the light and face the karma that strikes back. The Tarnished emerges from Ranni's tower, bearing the responsibility of traversing the hidden city of Nokron and claiming a treasure so powerful it could slay the Two Fingers, a burdensome duty that stretches the competence of even the most valiant. However, what exactly is the alternative? To live eternally under the tyrannical rule of the Outer Gods and the deceitful Golden Order? Before we continue, we would like to take a moment to talk about this video's sponsor, Naraka Bladepoint. Naraka is a battle royale game that places a heavy emphasis on fast-paced melee combat, insane mobility powered by a grappling hook, and a vast arsenal of melee weapons. Naraka is currently celebrating its 2nd anniversary and the milestone of reaching over 20 million players to date. As a show of appreciation, Naraka is free to play from the 14th of July. Log in now and claim various free skins, chests, and much more. Naraka is available to play on Steam, Epic Games, Xbox, and as of July 14th, PlayStation 5. If you're a PlayStation owner, you are in for a surprise, with some great launch rewards awaiting you. You may be wondering what separates Naraka from other games in the Battle Royale genre. Naraka has pioneered a unique combination of melee weapons and hero skills, which offer limitless combat possibilities. Its core mechanics are centered around a rock-paper-scissors style of system, including common attacks, focus strikes, and counter-strikes. Depending on the enemy's choice of attack, you must respond with the appropriate strike to overpower their offense. This counter system allows you to predict your enemy's attacks, and for them to predict yours, creating an intense chess match of psychological warfare. Naraka's wide collection of melee weapons alone is an indication of the creative freedom offered to its players. You can wield a greatsword, katana, dagger, longsword, spear, nunchucks, dual blades, pole sword, or a staff. Bear in mind each of these weapons have a dynamic moveset that leads to numerous fighting styles and powerful combos. Not to mention that Naraka also offers a wide array of ranged weapons. If you're a fan of the Souls games, I'm sure you'll appreciate the variety and freedom offered here. Please click the first link in the description to download and play Naraka Bladepoint for free. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the video. Before departing, the Tarnished acquaints himself with one of Ranni's vassals, Preceptor Seluvis, a master in the art of sorcery. The nefarious schemer extends his hand to the Tarnished, but makes it abundantly clear that he does so only out of respect for his lady's wishes. Seluvis hands over a small flask, containing a cloudy tonic of bluish black. On it, the following words are inscribed: "Find Nefeli and ensure she drinks it." At this point, various options are presented, one being to do as requested and give Nefeli the potion. Secondly, to lay aside the potion for a later point, in which the Tarnished can utilize it in defeating a foul being named Dung-Eater. Lastly, the potion can be handed over to Gideon Ofnir, who will dispose of it immediately. His actions expose a clear distrust in Seluvis, hinting at a history that had been buried. The two were once allies, but the involvement of a silent hunter caused a schism in their friendship. Dolores once belonged to the Round Table Hold, where she was both a critic and a friend of Gideon the All-Knowing. It was because of her that he and Seluvis went their separate ways. If the potion is given to Nefeli Lu, her body will be found in Seluvis's laboratory, revealing that she had been turned into a puppet. The workshop houses many of Seluvis's victims, all turned to puppets for experimentation, one of whom is Dolores the Sleeping Arrow. This choice was personal, as Dolores was targeted out of spite, for she meddled with his relationship with Gideon. Here, the Preceptor's ambitions begin to materialize, a puppeteer who wishes to betray his lady, to turn Ranni, a demigod, into one of his puppets. With this achievement, he can claim with confidence the very finest puppet ever crafted. To fashion a potion of this capability, Seluvis requests the Tarnished to acquire an amber starlight. If the stars command our fates, then amber-hued stars must command the fates of the gods. Such is the belief that inspired the use of these shards to prepare a most special draft. Through the use of the starlight, Seluvis creates the Amber Draft, a potion elixir with the potential to turn the Lunar Princess into a puppet. By granting Ranni the potion, she quickly identifies your betrayal and expresses deeply her sorrow in knowing that the Tarnished would succumb to such depravity. In response, she unleashes her wrath upon both Seluvis and the Tarnished. There is a valuable lesson to be learned from walking a path of deceit and treachery, for it is a guide to a life void of meaning. Without a moral compass, or the moral obligation to pursue what is honourable, the core of one's being is put in question, and to that point, they may as well be as good as dead, which in the case of Seluvis, the underlying message manifests itself in a very literal sense. In time with Seluvis's death, a voice can be heard in the distance of a man pleading for his life. The cry for help echoes from the upper region of Carrier Manor. The Tarnished arrives to find a corpse surrounded by 3 Rhea Lucaria soldiers. The body laying before us is Pidia, a servant to the Carrion royal family. He was charged with watching over Seluvis's dolls, but upon death, the puppets turned on their master. One could argue that Pidia's fate was deserved, as in working with Seluvis, he had broken the oath sworn when serving the Carrion family. However, he may have been oblivious to the schemes of the malevolent sorcerer, another addition to his list of victims. If the Tarnished maintains their allegiance to the Lunar Princess, they will descend deep below the surface. 2 great rivers flow beneath the lands between, the Siofra and the Ainzel. The vast region is said to be the grave of civilizations that flourished before the Erd Tree, an alluring city covered in a perpetual night sky. This land is home to the Ancestral Followers, a tribal race who keep their distance from the Erd Tree, awaiting new buds. They are certain to sprout from their very flesh, and indeed their souls. Interestingly, the Erd Tree is known to usurp the souls of those who've passed, and Ancestral Followers grow horns from their very souls. To avoid contention with the Erd Tree, they keep a great distance, to the extent that they choose to dwell deep below ground. A crucial aspect of the Followers' faith are the budding horns, which sprout through ritualistic practices. It is said that horns are ideal ceremonial items for ancestral worship. The Followers firmly believe that death does not mark the end of one's journey, but rather gives way to a new beginning. Thus does new life grow from death, and from death one obtains power. For this reason, they worship the corpses of long-lived beasts, observing as their horns continue to bud like antlers long after death, until one day the deceased becomes an ancestral spirit. Ancestral spirits exist as a phenomenon beyond the purview of the Erd Tree. Life sprouts from death, as it does from birth. Such is the way of living. Not all in the realm of the spirit worship and faith are able to experience sprouting. As a result, a winged great horn is wielded to reap the lives of those who do not bud. Beings of the ancestral faith are theorized to be a vestige of the primordial crucible. Firstly, their civilization is described as one that flourished before the Erd Tree. Secondly, horns are a huge signifier of the Crucible era, identified as a relic of the times of old. Lastly, some Crucible Knights can be found wielding a spear with antler-like horns sprouting from its core, resembling those found on the ancestral spirit. To cement this theory, a budding horn can be found on a corpse, draped over a wall in the Siofra River, which explicitly states, "The horn began to sprout on a beast that typically bears no horn." Perhaps it's a vestige of the primordial crucible. The concept of horns and their association with the Crucible era raises the question of the very nature of the spectral steed, Torrent. Could they be a remnant of the Crucible era, perhaps destined to become an ancestral spirit? Traversing far into Siofra, Blythe can be found ruminating.
I can see bloody Nokron right above me, but I'm absolutely stumped. I've tried all the gateways, to no avail.
Unable to identify a means of reaching the kingdom of Nokron, Blythe and the Tarnished must pursue alternate means. There are whispers of an entry point through the lands to the east. Caelid, known as the locale of the last battle between General Radahn and Malenia, Blade of Miquella, is a vast land consummately marred by scarlet rot. In the blighted wilds of Caelid, the elderly sage Gowry is found dwelling in a decrepit shack.
Since Malenia fought Radahn, and the great scarlet flower blossomed in Aeonia, I have dedicated myself to her, and to the resplendence of the Order of Rot.
In the swamp of Aeonia, Gowry came across a helpless young girl named Millicent and her 3 sisters. The sage raised the siblings as his very own and identified much potential in them, especially Millicent, who he believed would outshine the others. Each of the sisters was ordered to travel to the Hellwig tree in the hopes that they would be reborn into Scarlet Valkyries. When time came for young Millicent to begin her journey, it became apparent that she had been afflicted by the unforgiving Scarlet Rot, placing a wrench in the future she had eagerly awaited. Millicent now rests at a church atop a cliff beyond Celia. She is tended to by witless pests who worship her rotting sickness, idealizing her as a god. Gowry bids the Tarnished to traverse through the dangerous lands of Caelid and deep into the swamp of Aeonia, where they may uncover an intricately crafted needle of unalloyed gold. The needle is in the possession of Commander O'Neill, who fought to the very end in the infamous Battle of Aeonia. Until this day, the soldier remains at his post, proudly wielding his time-worn halberd. Even after his lord was fled, Commander O'Neill continued to brandish this flag in the devastation of the rot-eaten field of battle, the sole veteran who remembers this battle with pride. Upon the commander's defeat, the unalloyed gold needle is acquired, a ritual implement crafted to ward away the meddling of outer gods. It is thought capable of forestalling the incurable rotting sickness. Reaching the peak of the cliffs beyond Celia, Millicent is discovered convalescing at the Church of the Plague. The red-headed woman appears to be missing a limb and at the cusp of death, slowly succumbing to the rot. As a final effort, the Tarnished puts the needle to use. In time, Millicent regains consciousness, however, her memory remains clouded. Invigorated, she sets off from the church to the old shack housing her adoptive father, Gowry. Having fulfilled his purpose, Gowry did not await the return of Millicent, as she must now face the adverse world on her own, to stand in the face of chaos and embark on her fated journey to the Hellwig tree. Marching ahead, the Tarnished enters a domain inhabiting creatures of arguably the most dangerous kind, one belonging to the dragons that escaped the Scarlet Rot and made nest of the plateau to Caelid's north. Thus it was named Dragonbarrow, and none dared to enter. Inside the bestial sanctum, a large hunched creature lies isolated from the outside world. This is Geraint, beast clergyman, formerly known as Malekith, Queen Marika's half-brother and wielder of the notorious Black Blade. Long ago, Geraint was a beast of such terrifying ferocity that his former name meant death of the demigods. Since bounding his blade within his own flesh to prevent its power from being stolen, Geraint eternally yearns to feast on the deathroot that sprouted following the death of Godwyn. The consumption of deathroot may have begun as an honest means of ridding the world of the plague. However, in time, it became the beast's undoing. Geraint began recruiting followers to collect and present him with deathroot as a means of restoring the rune of death to its full capacity, in addition to satiating his ceaseless hunger, a cycle with no end in sight. One such follower was D. Hunter of the Dead, who had previously urged the Tarnished to serve the clergyman. By weeding out deathroot and presenting them at the bestial sanctum, Geraint's true nature begins to manifest, oftentimes losing control of himself and lashing out at the Tarnished. All of the deathroot stretching across the lands between would not satiate the beast's craving, causing Geraint to grow ever so frustrated. Accepting that his appetite is a bottomless void, the clergyman thanks the Tarnished for their faithful service and departs. Without deathroot, the lands between can serve him no longer. Perhaps his desires can be fulfilled elsewhere. Turning back to the task at hand, the Tarnished heads towards the entry point to Nokron, said to be beyond Redmane Castle. The fort serves as a gathering point for warriors alike who intend to participate in the Radahn Festival. The festival in question is the act of opposing the fearsome Shardbearer and demigod in the flesh, General Radahn. Standing beside the Tarnished, Iron Fist Alexander prepares to join the battle. Blythe too sharpens his blade in preparation for the curtains to open. The one who initiates the festival is witch hunter Yearn. Yearn preferred a nomadic existence, but after spending time as a guest of the Carrion Royals, he became a guest commander for General Radahn, and for the first time, the restless tumbleweed would be bound by honorable oath.
A war festival honoring the last battle and death of General Radahn, the mightiest demigod of the Shattering and bearer of a great rune.
Under the blood-red sky, the warriors charge into battle. Through a show of boundless courage, others are enticed to join the ranks, eclipsing the unparalleled strength of Radahn. Among them, Patches rises to the occasion. His heroism is short-lived, however, as upon weighing the prospect of losing his life with that of having his name etched in history, Patches chooses to live another day, knowing too well that once you hear the details of victory, it is hard to distinguish it from defeat. The war is won, and General Radahn is felled, granting the Tarnished his great rune. No longer held back by the Shardbearer's gravitational influence, we witness a ray of stars shoot across the lands between, and a blinding light floods the sky. Before investigating the meteorite that had struck, the Tarnished vows to expand their knowledge on the world of alchemy, as to better understand Radahn's gravitational abilities and make sense of the phenomenon that had just taken place. To do so, we return to the sorceress Salem, who reveals herself to be an illusion, with her real body being held captive in Witchbane ruins of the Weeping Peninsula. Upon arriving, we bear witness to Salem's true self.
These shackles take a toll on us all. There is something I need you to look after. My primal glintstone. A star has fallen, and my fortunes waver. Someone may come for my life, and so I entrust it with you. Myself.
Concerned that her life is at risk, the sorceress entrusts the Tarnished with her very being, granting them a primal glintstone. In essence, a primal glintstone is a sorcerer's soul. If transplanted into a compatible new body, after their original body dies, the sorcerer will rise again. Returning at a later point, witch hunter Yearn stands before Salem's corpse, revealing that it was he who sought after her life. He expresses that Salem was known as a graven witch, obsessed with the primeval current, labeling her the most dangerous mage in the entire history of Rayolucaria Academy. Left to her own devices, the fate of the lands between would have kneeled before her malevolence. This puts into perspective Salem's intrigue in the heretical sorcerers Azur and Lusat, having previously requested the Tarnished to locate and retrieve information from them regarding the primeval current. In her belief, sorcerers are falling children of the stars, and shall beam with brilliance once again. If the Tarnished wishes to honour their pact with Salem, a new vessel can be encountered in Seluvis's puppet chamber below Ranni's Rise. Through the use of the primal glintstone, Salem is granted life anew, and is able to continue down her path of heresy, spreading chaos with every step taken. The final confrontation takes place at the Grand Library of Rayolucaria, where Salem faces off against her adversary, witch hunter Yearn. Once again, the pendulum of morality tugs at the heart of the Tarnished. Do we aid Salem in restoring the bodies of Masters Azur and Lusat, shifting the Academy's ideology towards honing the primeval current? Or do we side with Yearn and cut off the head of the snake once and for all? If Salem is to prevail, she will take reign over the Grand Library and attempt to kill Queen Rennala, but Karma does not take lightly to such heinous actions. In consequence, she is destined to a lifetime as a spherical entity, composed of the faces of two Rayolucaria students, Olivinus and Lazuli. Such is the fate of all practitioners of the forbidden sorcery. With that said, the Tarnished does not allow this seed to be planted. Virtue is the guiding hand that models one's judgment, and so the Tarnished opposes their once master in sorcery, and puts an end to Salem's treacherous dynasty.
My thanks for the aid given. I heard from Iji that Lady Rani might have found herself a champion, but I didn't know he was talking about you. You've helped me fulfill an old promise. Well, I must be leaving now. Brave warrior, if the fates deign it. No, we shall indeed meet again, Tarnished.
With one chapter closed, the Tarnished shifts their gaze and tracks down the meteor which struck following the defeat of General Radahn. A gaping hole appears before us, and rock fragments levitate above. Traversing through the broken structure leads to Nokron, the Eternal City. An artificial sky shines with a purple hue, and countless stars scatter across the landscape. The Tarnished sets foot in a once flourishing civilization. We witness soaring structures of the most complex and unorthodox architecture, and more importantly, a mysterious mausoleum which diverts all attention, appearing just out of reach. The mystique of a kingdom buried in history invites curiosity. What could have possibly caused such a tragic fate? Long ago, the Nox invoked the ire of the Greater Will and were banished deep underground. Now they live under a false night sky, in eternal anticipation of their liege, of the coming age of the stars, and their Lord of Night. The Nox are a race of cold-blooded beings who wield weapons formed from silver tears. Invoking the ire of the Greater Will likely refers to the infamous Night of the Black Knives. After all, it is said that the Black Knife assassins were scions of the Eternal City. The motivation for their betrayal stems from their allegiance to the coming age of the stars, aligning with the goals of the Lunar Princess Rani. For their treason, they were banished from the surface, left with nothing. Their fates rely upon Rani's success. The resurgence of the Nox cannot triumph without a leader, an authoritative figure so to speak, and so they await the arrival of their Lord of Night, or rather attempt to manufacture one. The Silver Tear makes mockery of life, reborn again and again into imitation. Perhaps one day it will be reborn a lord. The Nox were reduced to a life underground, but that is not what caused the fall of their civilization. A malformed star, born in the flightless void far away, once destroyed an eternal city and took away their sky, a falling star of ill omen. Theories suggest that the Greater Will did not regard confinement as a severe enough punishment for the Nox, and so, akin to the way in which it had sent a golden star bearing the Elden Beast into the lands between, the Greater Will directed a star containing Astel, natural born of the Void, to assail the Eternal City. Alternatively, the asteroid that struck as a result of Radahn no longer holding back the stars may have been the very one that contained Astel. The creature is composed of multicolored star debris and now resides within the Lake of Rot of Nokstella. Exploring Nokron, fallen hawks patrol the environment, a company of slaves who were once ordered to explore the Eternal City. A ghost flame torch is known to be the tool of the fallen hawks who prowl the underground rivers. When the band's last embers were used up in their long search, they began to burn the bones of their fellows, acquiring the cold ghost flame, but sealing their fate as dwellers of the underground for all eternity. Danger lurks behind every corner, some manifesting as one's own reflection, mimic tears, the duality of facing your own strengths and weaknesses. Those of the Eternal City have crafted a special type of silver tear, capable of completely mimicking its opposition, along with their appearance, fighting style, and use of spells and armaments. Mimic tears are the result of an attempt by the Eternal City to forge a lord. Posing a greater threat are the valiant gargoyles, one wielding a greatsword, the other brandishing a twin blade. A closer look will reveal the gargoyles to be impaired, their missing parts mended with corpse wax, said to be the patchwork of champions. The same can be said for the weapons they clasp, such as the mark of those who serve Malekith, the Black Blade. East of a great waterfall basin, against the railing of a balcony, Dee, Beholder of Death, is found. Prior to Rogier's death, he had left behind a letter which read, "I forgot to tell you, but it seems Dee has a younger brother. I heard he lies in a deep sleep in the aqueduct beside the Eternal City of Nokron, and it's said he stood before the Prince of Death Not far beyond that point, Devon is the twin brother of Dee, Hunter of the Dead, whose true name is Darian. The twins are of 2 bodies and 2 minds, but one single soul. Not once do they stand together, not one word do they speak to one another. Interestingly, their condition mirrors that of Marika and Radagon, who are also of 2 bodies, but share one singular soul. Perhaps this phenomenon isn't as uncommon as previously perceived. Travelling below ground, Devon came eye to eye with the Prince of Death himself, and as a result, his mind was shattered. The destructive encounter left him mentally crippled and unable to speak. Within the Knight's sacred grounds, the Tarnished treads through a quiet holy site, left in ruins following the collapse of the Eternal City. We appear before a gargantuan statue, reminiscent of a Night Maiden. Inside, the Tarnished obtains the treasure promised to slay a god, the very one requested by Lunar Princess Ranni. The hidden treasure of the Eternal City of Nokron, a blade said to have been born of a corpse. This blood-drenched fetish is proof of the high treason committed by the Eternal City and symbolizes its downfall. The weapon cannot be wielded by those without a fate, but is said to be able to harm the Greater Will and its vassals. With the task completed, the Tarnished returns to Ranni, offering forth the Fingerslayer blade. With the hidden treasure in hand, all the pieces are in place. Soon, Ranni may begin her journey, upon the dark path only she may tread. Before leaving, a peculiar gift is granted to the Tarnished, a Carrion inverted statue. This object reveals the hidden form of the Carrion study hall, which connects the Divine Tower. To unveil the secret, affix it to the pedestal of the Celestial Globe. Although the Fingerslayer blade was obtained, the search for truth remains unquenched. The Tarnished steps back in the realm of the Eternal City, to the sub-region of Nokstella. Upon resting at a site of grace, they are accompanied by a miniature doll, both resembling and possessed by the Lunar Princess. Ranni explains that following her betrayal of the 2 fingers, they have been at war ever since, cursing each other from afar. She asks the Tarnished to eliminate the baleful shadows which prowl the lands, expressing that they are assassins appointed by the Fingers. Moving forward, we step into the waterfall basin of Nokstella, a dark corner veiled by crimson fog. Here, the Tarnished faces a baleful shadow, one resembling the half-wolven ally of Ranni. His likeness to Blythe is not coincidental, as Blythe was created by the 2 fingers, and so too were the baleful shadows. In a clash of swords, the Tarnished defeats the shadow. Following the battle, Ranni, through possession of the miniature doll, grants the Tarnished a discarded palace key, enabling them to access a locked chest within the Grand Library, which houses a Dark Moon ring. The ring depicts a leaden full moon, symbolic of a cold oath. The ring is supposed to be given by the Lunar Princess Ranni to her consort. Ranni granting a ring intended for her consort affirms her trust in the Tarnished and the strength of the relationship built along the journey. Further ahead lies a great lake of standing water downstream of the Ainzel River. Here we encounter a Dragonkin soldier, a colossal being of animalistic nature. The Dragonkin were born into the Eternal City, where they knew no true sky, nor true lightning. Instead, ice lightning was their weapon. Although the Dragonkin are descendants of dragons, they never attained immortality, and perished as decrepit, pale imitations of their skyborn kin. Deeper still lies Astel, natural born of the Void, who decimated the Eternal City upon arrival. Astel bears many similarities to falling star beasts. Both creatures appear to be entities of the cosmos, who've crash-landed into the lands between, evident by the very fact that falling star beasts appear only within craters. Theories suggest that both creatures are one and the same, but at different transition stages, comparable to how a caterpillar grows into a butterfly. The metamorphosis begins with a falling star beast, followed by a full-grown falling star beast, and finally taking the form of Astel. Both creatures have 2 sets of pincers, a barbed tail, 1 large central eye, and both use gravity magic when in combat. Interestingly, the falling star beast carries an obsidian shell, whilst Astel does not. potentially marking the final evolution of the creature, the shedding of the skin, so to speak. The Tarnished defeats the natural born of the void and emerges from the Eternal City to find themselves at the Moonlight Altar. Here they encounter Alecto, Black Knife ringleader, the mastermind behind the Black Knife's plot. Following the death of Godwyn, Alecto was captured and imprisoned in an Everjail, and her daughter Tish was killed protecting her during their flight from the royal capital. Ahead lies a large church atop the southern plateau of Liurnia, protected by Ranni's loyal guard, Glintstone Dragon Ajula, a familiar foe whom the Tarnished had traded blows with earlier on their journey. This time, retreat is not an option, and Ajula is put to rest for the last time. Descending down a cavern within the Cathedral of Manus Celis, we uncover the lifeless body of Ranni the Witch, sitting before the corpse of the Two Fingers, who are covered in blood. In Ranni's effort to sever her connection with the Outer Gods, she appears to have fought and defeated her own fingers using the Fingerslayer blade. Presented with the Dark Moon Ring, the Lunar Princess springs to life.
So it was thee who would become my lord. Perhaps I needn't have warned thee. I am pleased, however. Thou art a fitting choice. I go now to the night sky. It is there I shall find mine order. I bid thee travel the path of the Lord, and once all is done, we shall see each other once more.
Now at her endgame, the Lunar Princess awaits the Tarnished to complete their journey, as only then can they usher in the Age of the Stars. Following their conversation, Ranni dissipates, leaving behind a Dark Moon greatsword, bestowed by a Carrion Queen upon her spouse to honour long-standing tradition. Returning to Ranni's rise, Blythe appears to have lost his sanity, driven to madness following Ranni's betrayal of the Two Fingers. As established, Blythe was created by the Two Fingers as a vassal to Ranni, incapable of treachery towards her. His existence is in sole service of aiding Ranni on her journey to replace Marika as the god of the coming age. The Greater Will is wise beyond imagination, foreseeing the likelihood of Ranni's betrayal. As a precaution, the Two Fingers were ordered to create a failsafe within Blythe, one unknown to him, that if the Lunar Princess was to protest her fate, the loyal shadow would descend to madness, becoming a threat to Ranni herself. From a faithful follower to a horrid curse, the shadow turns his blade to the Tarnished. Reflecting back, Blythe was never supposed to have accompanied the Tarnished to Nokron, as in fulfilling Ranni's ambition, the shadow was unknowingly sealing his own fate. At a point in time, Blythe could be found locked in an Everjail.
Old Iji trapped me here. Told me I'd bring naught but bale to Lady Ranni. But there's no chance that could happen. I'm part of her being. A very shadow. I thought old Iji knew as much. Honestly, I don't know what's going on anymore.
The War Councillor had predicted the inevitable outcome to Blythe's journey, and took precautionary measures to ensure that he did not harm Lady Ranni. Naive to the situation, the Tarnished freed Blythe from the Everjail, leading to this very moment, where they must draw the blood of an ally and brother in arms. In the vicinity, the corpses of Black Knife assassins can be discovered, revealing that an attempt on Blythe's life was made, but the intruders fell short to the claws of the half-wolf. A black wolf mask can be found nearby, a relic of an assassin who assumed the guise of Ranni the Witch's loyal shadow. It appears the assassins had kept a close eye on the Lunar Princess and her companions, even infiltrating their clan under the guise of her half-wolven ally. On returning to West Liurnia, we discover that Iji had been executed by Black Knife assassins. Beside the War Councillor, the corpses of his assailants are scattered throughout the field, revealing that he did not go down without a fight. Considering Black Knife assassins are allies of the Lunar Princess, one may question why they would betray both Blythe and Iji. It can be theorized that stealing the Fingerslayer blade from Nokron may have invoked their retaliatory behavior, or perhaps their relationship with Ranni was never stable to begin with. After all, the Black Knife assassin Alecto was imprisoned at the Moonlight Altar, which is under Ranni's influence. On E.G.'s body, a letter of confession can be retrieved, written in ink. He declares his own guilt for having sealed away Blythe. Continuing on their pilgrimage, the Tarnished aims to reach Mohgwyn's dynasty mausoleum, which was visible from the Eternal City but out of reach. To do so, they are to be accepted into Mohg's service. This is done through the help of White Mask Varré. By gaining the trust of the War Surgeon, we earn a Lord of Blood's favour. The final trial to be anointed a Knight of Mohg, Lord of Blood. Soak the cloth with a maid's blood. The blood of anyone's maid will do. You are maidenless, after all. Recalling back to where their journey began, the Tarnished retreats to the Chapel of Anticipation and drenches the white cloth in the blood of the deceased maiden previously encountered. By doing so, they are granted audience with Mohg, Lord of Blood. As we explore Mohgwyn's palace, Varré once again makes an appearance.
You seek violence, heedless of my warning, though you have been raised to a knight of the dynasty. I am pained to the very depths of my being.
The War Surgeon sees through our deception, realizing that our allegiance to the Lord of Blood is but a ploy to gain entry to the mausoleum. Outraged by the betrayal, Varré draws his blade in contempt.
Oh, luminary Mohg, please grant the strength you promised. I have given everything. Please, my lord, please answer me, luminary Mohg.
The Tarnished champion makes their way to the mausoleum, where Mohg resides along with the abducted Miquella. The Lord of Blood emerges to confront the unwelcome guest, unleashing the unrelenting power of his accursed blood. Like many before him, Mohg falls before the Tarnished, unable to overcome their resilience. From his defeat, another great rune is acquired. Mohg's rune is soaked in accursed blood, from his devout love for the wretched mire that he was born into far below the earth. Beyond the horizon, the next chapter of our journey awaits, guiding the Tarnished towards Altus Plateau. This region is accessed via the Grand Lift of Dectus, which requires 2 half medallions to operate. The right half is said to reside in Fort Fareth, in the Dragon Barrow far to the east. The left half is said to reside in the coastal Fort Height to the far west. Acquiring both medallions, the Tarnished steps foot in new territory. The Altus Plateau, where the Erdtree's base can be found, contains the royal capital of Lendel to the east, and Mount Gelmir to the west. Scars from the shattering remain apparent to this day. Those born at the foot of the Erdtree are blessed. At least that is the enduring belief of the people of the plateau.
Ah, look who we have here. How delightful to meet a familiar face, even after departing the Round Table Hold. I've been doing some learning of my own since then, actually, and will happily pass it along to you.
Since leaving the Round Table Hold, Brother Corrin has come to understand, in his solitude, how little he truly knows. In his pursuit of learning the nature of the Golden Order, his investigation leads to the search for a noble named Goldmask. Though he was a Tarnished, Goldmask was a renowned scholar who foresaw the coming guidance of grace. His name is derived from the radiant gold mask that conceals his face. Its striking design represents both the brilliant inspiration that once shone upon him, and the vision of a ring that he will surely find at the end of his pursuit. Goldmask is rumoured to have journeyed to the lands between to contemplate the Golden Order, and Brother Corrin wishes for nothing more than to seek his instruction, or perhaps aid in his research. At the Road of Iniquity, Corrin becomes acquainted with Goldmask and chooses to be his disciple, his only disciple to be precise, as all who came before have since left him. His admiration for the noble extends to the point of obsession, frantically attempting to record his wisdom down to the movement of his finger. For now, Corrin is left to fulfill what he believes to be his life's calling, to uphold the great duty of being a documentarian for the truth of the Golden Order. North of the Erdtree grazing hill on the Altus Plateau, the Tarnished once again happens upon Millicent. She expresses that since their last encounter, the Scarlet Rot has stilled, allowing her to progress her journey. Millicent is tracing the path Melania took, following her infamous battle with General Radahn. She hopes to meet the vanished woman, believing that she takes shelter in the north, in the lands that lie beyond the Erdtree. To walk the path of the Blade of Miquella attracts great danger, inciting the Tarnished to lend a hand, giving Millicent a Valkyrie's prosthesis, which can be obtained at the Shaded Castle. Golden prosthesis once used by the one-armed Valkyrie, a masterwork of craftsmanship. With practice and skill, it can be used as proficiently as a real arm. When Malay Murray, Lord of the Shaded Castle, embraced this prosthesis, he claimed to feel the presence of his personal goddess. The previous owner of this prosthesis is a member of the Murray family, who have a dual history spanning generations, serving as both executioners and castellans of the Shaded Castle. The sons of House Murray are all sickly born. Little wonder that Malay Murray would be so beguiled by the beautiful and fearsome goddess who was born into rot. Having acquired the prosthesis, perhaps Millicent too can feel Melania's presence. Heading west, the Tarnished begins to ascend. They find themselves enveloped by harsh environments and stormy clouds. Mount Gelmir, which houses the Volcano Manor at its summit, is characterized by sheer cliffs and ominous skies. These qualities only became more pronounced after the shattering. As we traverse through the region, Patches makes an appearance. He directs the Tarnished towards a set of rainbow stones, placed strategically throughout the land. Upon nearing the edge of a cliff, Patches seizes the opportunity to kick the Tarnished down, warning them to avoid Volcano Manor. For once, his actions are not transparently malicious, as his warning may very well be genuine. Anyhow, the Tarnished does not heed the advice given. Our agenda is to infiltrate the manor and slay Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy, and in turn obtain his great rune. To do so, the Tarnished approaches the manor under the guise of a would-be champion.
So, Tarnished, have you ever harbored doubts about the burden of grace and the dogmatic ramblings of the Fingers? If you have, why not join the Volcano Manor and fight with us, rise with us, against the Erdtree?
Following Rykard's descent into heresy, the Proprietress was the only human to remain by his side when he became the Serpent of Blasphemy. In that moment, Tanith was truly charmed by him. Now she continues his unfinished work, taking up arms against the Erdtree and the Golden Order. The recusants fight to tread the path of the champion. The way is tainted, but for this very reason, it is the true path of valor. Pledging allegiance to the manor, the Tarnished is charged with completing various assassinations. The first is ordered by Lady Tanith. Her envelope discloses the name of a Tarnished, Old Knight Istvan. The second contract marks Riley the Idol, a confessor and loyal servant to the Two Fingers. The third places Juno Hoslow in the crosshair, the older brother of Dialos. The reason he is targeted is because when Juno Hoslow received an invitation to the Volcano Manor, he discreetly refused. His defiance was viewed with contempt, and for that he would pay with his life. Earning the trust of the manor, the Tarnished gains entry to the drawing room. Inside, they are met with Knight Bernal, Dialos, and Raya. Bernal is a Tarnished merchant who trades in ashes of war. He invites the Tarnished to accompany him in assassinating Vargram the Raging Wolf and errant sorcerer Wilhelm. Vargram was one of the first Tarnished to visit the Round Table Hold. According to old legends, wolves are the shadows of the Empyrean. Vargram aspired to such a state himself. In the case of sorcerer Wilhelm, he is a silent seeker of sorcery who had gone so far as to make contact with a primeval current. Wilhelm was led by guidance into confrontation with his friend Vargram, and it is said that he was then taken prisoner in Round Table Hold. Shifting focus, we encounter Patches at the manor, despite his attempt to stave off the Tarnished. The swindler reveals himself to be working under Tanith. and tasks us with hunting down a target of the recusants. Tragoth is a famed knight of assistance. Countless Tarnished, facing adversity in the lands between, have survived thanks only to the Great Horned One's aid. Within the manor's drawing room, Diallos' presence is a surprise. As you may recall, he had previously sworn revenge on the residents of Volcano Manor, as they murdered his servant Lanya in cold blood. The foolish but honest knight had been manipulated by Lady Tanith, who convinced him that vengeance is not a desirable path. Exploiting his insecurities, Tanith persuaded Diallos to stay his blade, that he has the heart of a champion, and as such is best joining her organisation. Fortunately, with the passage of time, the knight comes to his senses and departs in search of a greater purpose. Relocating to Jarburg, Diallos, for the first time in his existence, feels a sense of meaning, vowing to become potentate and protect the village with his life. On a night absent of the light of the moon, the peace within the village was disrupted by a thief, but there was a hero in attendance who rose to the occasion.
Oh, Cuz, I'm glad you came, but we're fine now. Diallos fought the poacher, though quite a lot of us got broken. I won't cry though. I'm a warrior, Jar. A warrior.
You. Are the jars? Are they all right? Did I defend them? Then all is well. This fool proved his worth in the end.
The tale of House Hoslow is told in blood. That's the kind of warrior I want to be one day, Cuz. Even if I'm scared, I'll still fight to protect everyone.
Accomplices to the crime were the depraved perfumers, who are in league with jar poachers. They hire bandits to hunt down noble jars and use their fragments to craft iron jar aromatics. The forbidden art is maintained within a perfume bottle and is able to temporarily turn body to steel, boosting poise, resistances, and damage negation at the expense of mobility and vulnerability to lightning. Back at Volcano Manor, the Tarnished stumbles upon Raya in her true and natural serpentine form, a secret that she had hoped to keep buried. Confiding in the Tarnished, Raya reveals that her real name is Zorias, and admits to knowing very little of her origin as a serpent. She expresses that strange sounds call to her from beyond the walls, sounds of breathing or slithering scales. Drawn towards the depths of the veiled darkness, lurking behind the unexpected walls of the manor, the Tarnished uncovers a hidden civilization of fire and serpents, brought to life by Praetor Rykard and the immortal god-devouring serpent. Within the Temple of Igle, we acquire a serpent's amnion, derived from the mother's womb, which cradled the poor unwanted offspring of a repellent birthing ritual.
I remember this scent distinctly. I was born inside this. It's a part of my birth, Mother. I want to know how I was born and met Lady Tanith.
In search of answers, Raya departs from the manor, hoping to find her real mother. To spare her the pain of knowing the truth, her adoptive mother, Tanith, pleads that we give Raya a tonic of forgetfulness, which, as the name implies, would ensure that Raya retains her ignorance. The tonic was a gift bestowed by Rykard, sworn to blasphemy, to Lady Tanith, who unfortunately had no use for it. My lord, there could be no greater distress than to forget you. Within the hidden city, Raya is found in a small room adjacent to a lava pit filled with cages and skulls.
I was an unwanted child, born not of grace, but of a hideous ritual, something that can never be accepted. Not by men, nor serpents. Even Lady Tanith shouldn't accept me. I know that you have done so much for me, but I wish to ask one last kindness. Kill me, please.
Having confirmed that she was in fact the product of a hideous ritual, Raya wishes to be free from her accursed frame. Should the Tarnished grant her wish, she will thank them along with her mother before meeting her fate. Alternatively, if given the tonic of forgetfulness, she will lose consciousness and reawaken at the manor's drawing room, with no recollection of the transpiring events, still believing Tanith to be her mother. The Tarnished, however, can choose neither option, electing to walk away instead. This results in Raya departing from the manor, leaving behind a handwritten note. I wish to set out on a journey, so that one day I can carry on mother's work, be the proud daughter of Tanith of Volcano Manor. Farewell, you've always been so kind, so uncompromising, my champion. Now, with complete access to the manor and its resources, the Tarnished can finally fulfill their true purpose, defeating the Shardbearer, Rykard, and obtaining his great rune. Upon entering his chamber, countless corpses appear before us, displaying the many failed attempts to overthrow the tyrant. To his victims, the Lord granted them an audience, whereupon they were welcomed by the Maw of the Great Serpent, and within the serpent's bowels, they became the Lord's kin. Edging closer, the Tarnished awakens the god-devouring serpent. Unable to pierce its coarse skin, the Tarnished picks up a serpent hunter from a nearby corpse, a weapon that serves as both greatsword and spear. Thought to have been used to hunt an immortal great serpent in the distant past, it manifests a long blade of light when facing such a creature. With the defeat of the coiled serpent, its true form manifests, revealing Rykard to be infused with the creature. From the mouth of the serpent, Rykard retrieves a sacred sword. Remains of the countless heroes he has devoured writhe upon the surface of this blade. Now they share the same blood, bound together as family. Ultimately, the strength of the Tarnished, coupled with the Serpent Hunter, proves too powerful, and the Lord of Blasphemy is slain. His final mutterings draw chills. A serpent never dies. The words of the tyrant contain no lies, as his corpse slowly begins to regenerate. With Rykard defeated, Patches departs from the manor, relocating first to the Shaded Castle, and finally back to Murkwater Cave. Without a lady to serve, he falls back into old habits, hastily attacking trespassers and making amends just as swiftly. Some things truly never change. Upon returning to Rykard's chamber, Lady Tanith is found before her lord, consuming his carcass in hopes of joining the Serpent King as family. Just as Rykard lived within the god-devouring serpent, he may live yet again within Tanith.
I wish to be your serpent, your family. One day, let us devour the gods together.
The Tarnished turns their blade to the proprietress. The cycle ends here. In retaliation, her Crucible Knight invades, and he too is put to rest. Leaving the volcanic region, the Tarnished travels to the home of the Golden Order, a landmark arrayed in gold. Lendel, city of the Erdtree, is a metropolis enclosed by double ramparts. The inner wall remains unbreached to this day.
My utmost thanks for bringing me to the base of the Erdtree. Here, I can govern my own movement, and thus, the accord is fulfilled. I shall depart to ascertain the purpose I was given. Farewell.
Melina is in pursuit of a purpose given by her mother inside the Erdtree long ago. Her function is the very reason she yet lives, burned and bodiless. She assumed the role of a maiden to gain the Tarnished's aid in reaching the base of the Erdtree, a necessary lie for which she feels immeasurable guilt. In truth, Melina is no maiden. Her purpose is yet unknown to her, but her faith drives her towards it nonetheless. Overlooking the capital, Brother Corran and Goldmask appear puzzled by the nature of Radagon. The Golden Order is founded on the principle that Marika is the one true god. Yet Radagon's name is spoken through key points in its history, and his origin remains ever shrouded in mystery. Goldmask refuses to move while his questions remain unanswered. Who exactly is Radagon? In the center of the capital, a statue of the king consort casts its shadow upon the city. The structure brings to light the truth of Radagon and Marika.
A famed sculptor of the Erdtree capital was once summoned to render Lord Radagon's likeness in giant stature, when he glimpsed the skeleton in Radagon's closet. And as such, it's said the great statue harbors his secret too.
Standing before the statue, the Tarnished uses the Law of Regression incantation, which heals all negative statuses, dispels special effects, and reveals mimicry in all its forms. With that done, the long-kept secret is uncovered, as the statue transforms into an icon of Queen Marika, signifying that Radagon and Marika are indeed one and the same. Following the shattering, and the absence of Queen Marika, the capital was without a ruler, urging its greatest defendant to take up the mantle. Morgott the Omen King now rules over Lendel as its veiled monarch. Upon arriving at the throne room, the Omen King's hand is forced into battle. Morgott regards the Tarnished, in addition to Godric the Golden, the twin prodigies, Melania and Mikola, General Radahn, Praetor Rykard, and the Lunar Princess Rani, to be willful traitors, each and every one. Wretched pillagers who were emboldened by the flame of ambition. He alone stands to defend the Erdtree capital, staying true to his duty until the very end. As the fight progresses, Morgott can be heard stating, "The thrones, stained by my curse, such shame I cannot bear." His words display both a sense of remorse for the condition for which he was born into, and tremendous respect for the throne for which he protects. After all, it was when the Elden Ring was shattered and chaos emerged to disrupt the status quo that those who were truly loyal became distinguished from others who were loyal when convenient. Morgott, born a graceless omen, was shackled below the subterranean shunning grounds for no fault of his own. He was never loved, and in turn never learned how to love. Yet, not for a second did he become bitter or resentful. When duty beckoned, Morgott took it upon himself to maintain order within the capital, staving off trespassers who fought to usurp the Elden throne. In facing the Tarnished, the last of all kings is bested. The Omen King tastes an honourable death, for he gave his life standing at his post, fulfilling his duty. Not many can claim as such. To become Elden Lord, one must enter the Erdtree. However, the Tarnished is prevented by a mantle of barbs.
The thorns are impenetrable, a husk of the Erdtree's being that spurns all that exists without. The only way to stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord is to pass the thorns. So I'd like you to undertake a new journey with me to the Flame of Ruin, far above the clouds, upon the snowy mountain tops of the giants. Then I can set the Erdtree aflame and guide you down the path to becoming Elden Lord.
Melina provides a rolled medallion, which activates the Grand Lift of Rolled, connecting Lendel to the mountaintops of the giants. The Forge of the Flame of Ruin is said to be found upon their peaks, and it is here Melina wishes to travel in resuming your journey together. With the night still young, the Tarnished sharpens their blade and prepares for the task that lies ahead, a desolate, brooding land, merciless in its harsh winds and frigid climate.
As the end approaches, the Tarnished prepares for the final leg of the journey. Returning to the Round Table Hold, we converse with Enya. She notes that burning the thorns of the Erdtree is the first cardinal sin. In addition, she knows the Tarnished seeks the Rune of Death, something which according to her, the Fingers and the Greater Will would never permit. At this point, the Fingers lie dormant, severing humanity's connection to the Greater Will. As all life lies in ruins, Enya believes that events have and will continue to transpire beyond the ken of the Fingers. For this reason, she places her faith in the Tarnished, stating that the cardinal sin need not be cardinal forever. the finger reader grants her blessing to take the course we deem most worthy. Prior to their departure, the Tarnished pays a visit to Fia. The deathbed companion offers a weathered dagger. She wishes for it to be returned to its rightful owner. It was once a weapon of gold and silver intertwined, but is now worn down and marred by a black gash. Gold and silver being the same materials used in the forging of Dee's armor. The Tarnished returns the dagger, however Dee mentions that he knows who the true owner of this weapon is. Perhaps he's referring to his brother. As time passes, the Hunter of the Dead is eventually found deceased in the Round Table Hold. Knelt over his corpse is Fia. Her calm demeanor veils an essence of joy at his passing. No longer concealing her motives, she reveals her true purpose. Dee, as a Hunter of the Dead, sought to eliminate those who live in death on behalf of the Golden Order. Naturally, the deathbed companion opposes this goal. She strives to restore the undead Godwyn to his rightful place and to enable those of his kind to live eternally in peace, undisturbed by those of the Order. However, Dee's death was not due to a clash in their ideologies, but rather his possession of a key item, integral to Fia's goal. Prior to his death, Dee had obtained the Hallobrand, the curse mark of death, also known as the half-wound wheel of the centipede, the very same half-wound that marked Godwyn's flesh upon his untimely death. Curse mark in hand, Fia edges ever closer to her ultimate goal of resurrecting Godwyn. All that remains is to remake the Hallobrand by obtaining the other half from the corpse of Rani. For now, the Tarnished obtains Dee's twin set of armor with the aim of returning it to his brother. One may wonder how Dee came into the possession of the Hallobrand and how Fia was aware of this. As mentioned earlier, Roger's letter recounts how Dee's younger brother Devin had once stood before Godwyn, explaining his moniker as a beholder of death. At this point, perhaps Dee's brother, using the weathered dagger, excised the curse mark from Godwyn's corpse. He then delivered the curse mark to his sibling Dee. Conversely, Darian may have obtained the missing piece from Summonwater Village. Roger, prior to his death, confirms that Darian had informed him that he had discovered the mark of the centipede, a revelation which Roger may have then passed on to Fia when laying in bed with her. Fia stated previously that she and Roger would frequently lie together, reinforcing this theory. Roger and Darian were once good friends, which is why he confided in him. However, their paths have since diverged, never again to cross. A schism formed in their friendship, likely stemming from their differing views of those who live in death. On the other hand, united by their interest in allowing the dead to prosper, the sorcerer and the deathbed companion had formed an alliance. Perhaps Fia, once informed by Roger, discovered the dagger and that it had been tainted by deathblight. Here she manipulates the Tarnished by giving them the weathered dagger, knowing full well that they will deliver it to Dee. Once Dee came into contact with this armament, the curse spread and infected him with deathblight, evident by the dark roots piercing his body. Oblivious, the Tarnished had acted as a deliverer of death, unaware of Fia's true intent. At this point, Fia departs the Round Table Hold. In search of Devin, the Tarnished journeys to Nokron. As a gesture of respect, we return his fallen brother's armor. The revelation of his brother's passing fills the man with sorrow, spurring him to hunt down the deathbed companion. For Fia to accomplish her goals, we can surmise that she would need to travel to Godwyn's corpse. For this reason, the Tarnished makes way for Deeproot Depths. At the very depths of the Erdtree's majestic roots lies the source of the Ainzel and the Siofra rivers. Here too begins the network of great tree roots that spread throughout the lands between. At last, the Tarnished bears witness to the cursed corpse of Godwyn in the flesh, a twisted and malformed being, neither dead nor alive, intertwined with the great tree. His form has tainted its roots, spreading death roots throughout the lands between. At the base of the tree lies Fia. Coming to her aid are her loyal guardians. Among them is her father Lionel and the sorcerer Roger. Roger's return implies that the sorcerer had somehow evaded death's embrace, insinuating that he may have joined the ranks of the undead. Regardless, the Tarnished eliminates her defenders, clearing the path to Fia herself. Fia poses a question to the Tarnished, asking them if they'll deny her ways like the dogmatic brutes of the Golden Order. Should the Tarnished answer yes, they will put an end to her ambitions of becoming a companion to Godwyn and a mother to the undead. Alternatively, we can choose to remain loyal. Following this decision, Fia will order the Tarnished to seek out the other half of the Hallobrand. With a new goal set before them, the Tarnished sets their gaze to obtaining the missing piece of the curse mark of death. Recalling the Carian inverted statue given to them by Ranni, the Tarnished journeys to the Carian study hall. Utilizing this object, one is able to reveal the hidden form of the environment. The artifact reveals the way, inverting the building, allowing one to gain access to the Divine Tower of Liurnia. Atop this structure lies the true corpse of Lunar Princess Ranni. From her scorched remains, we obtain the coveted curse mark of death. Returning this object to Fia, she notes she'll soon lay with Godwyn. From this, she's able to produce the Mending Rune of the Death Prince. Rune gestated by Fia, the deathbed companion, used to restore the fractured Elden Ring when brandished by the Elden Lord. Formed of the two Hallobrand half-wheels combined, it will embed the principle of life within death into order. The Golden Order was created by confining destined death. Thus, this new order will be one of death restored.
Please, do one thing for me. Brandish this child, my rune, and take for yourself the throne. Stay the persecution of those who live in death by becoming our Elden Lord.
Of her own free will, Fia laid with Godwyn, creating a rune that would introduce an order of death. Sadly, Fia would be unable to enjoy the fruits of her labor, as the vengeful brother of Dee would soon discover her location.
Ha! Prince of Death, take a good long look. See the wrath of the Golden Order, the Order's justice writ in blood. This is what's become of your precious witch. Naught but expired meat and bone. This is a proper death, O Prince. No more children can be got from this useless flesh. Behold, your mother is dead. This is revenge, you witch, and you ghoul. This is the wrath of Dee.
Darien, now I have no regrets. Honeyed rays of gold, deliver my spirit.
Devin delivered retribution to Fia, but also viewed it as his right, as one of the Golden Order, blurring the lines between vengeance and justice. The clash between Devin and Fia is but a microcosm of a larger war. The mark of the Golden Order's greatest failure, the death of Godwyn, spurred a crusade, a perpetual conflict with no victor. Be that as it may, thanks to Fia, the Tarnished can now decide the fate of the undead. Seeking respite, the Tarnished returns to the Round Table Hold.
A little while ago, someone started lurking in the wing on the opposite side of the Round Table, and I can hear, from all the way over there, the howling and wailing of spirits in fear of a curse. I can even hear the repulsive twisted malison itself, a plethora of spirits in an unceasing cacophony. I can't even imagine. How much suffering inflicted to who knows how many souls. Not even the grafting caused anything like this to happen. You should keep your distance. I know you're strong, but please.
Roderica speaks of the phantom of a malevolent killer known as the Dung Eater. Having become a spirit tuner, she's able to discern the cries of his victims. Japanese mythology speaks of our souls being orb-like objects contained within the rear of our bodies. There is a belief that soul eaters would tear the soul from the frames of their victims in order to devour it. This would explain the Dung Eater's name, as he can be likened to a soul eater from Japanese legends. He can be seen wearing the Omen set of armor. It reads as follows: "The heart of an Omen without the body to match. Could there be any crueler existence? What does it matter then if the curse claims it all?" Providing a window into the mind of the Dung Eater, the armor reveals that he wishes to place the curse of the Omen upon the living. Emblazoned on the surface of his armor is the symbol of the Sun Realm, his homeland. Speaking with the ominous individual, he makes note of a curse, a pox upon life itself, which he views as a reviled blessing. He wishes to be left alone, stating that the blessing of the hold is the only thing keeping our defilement at bay. The figure desires objects known as seedbed curses. They are a curse grown on a corpse killed and defiled by the Dung Eater, a tender pox afflicted with omen horns. The Dung Eater cultivates the seedbed curse on corpses. By doing so, he prevents dead souls returning to the Erd Tree, leaving them forever cursed. One of the most loathsome things found in the lands between. Should the Tarnished oblige and provide the Dung Eater with such a seedbed, he will provide a sewer jail key. The Dung Eater instructs us to seek out his corporeal flesh, chained in the shunning grounds below the capital, where Morgott and Moog were once held. If freed, the Dung Eater shows no gratitude. Instead, he will leave a message at the Round Table Hold. Throwing down his gauntlet, the Dung Eater challenges the Tarnished to a duel at the outer moat of the capital. Approaching this area, a familiar face can be seen: Blackguard Big Boggart. Interestingly, Boggart and the Dung Eater once shared a jail together. Furthermore, he states that the man is a godforsaken monster, a killer that murders and curses the souls of his prey. One of the many victims was none other than Boggart's friend. The Dung Eater's actions in that cell filled him with dread. Unfortunately, the Blackguard would share a similar fate to his companion, as the Dung Eater would leave the man on the verge of death.
Help me out. Would you, mate? I don't want to get cursed. Just let me die. I don't want to live like this. Not anymore. So, please.
Alas, the Tarnished faces the Dung Eater and prevails. But this would not mark the end of his tale. Upon his defeat, he drops the Sword of Milos, a weapon fashioned from the backbone of a giant. Milos was undersized for a giant and was viewed as sullied and terribly grotesque. From the description of his armament, we can surmise that the Dung Eater was a giant, one who was shunned by his kind. Once more, the Tarnished converses with the Dung Eater at the hold.
There you are. You warded off my blessing, despite the curse stirring within you. No one has succeeded in that before. How? I thought. Then it hit me that you are, in fact, me. And I am the Dung Eater. It is my flesh that must receive the blessing.
In wake of this revelation, the Dung Eater implores the Tarnished to seek out more seedbed curses and to use them to defile his flesh repeatedly, until a cursed ring coalesces that may one day defile the Order itself. Fulfilling his request, the Dung Eater will cry out,
A curse upon them all. They'll be born cursed, all of them, along with their children. and their children's children. For all time to come.
Unleash it upon them! Accursed blessings to war!
The repeated defilement of his body will lead to his death. With his sacrifice, the mending rune of the Fell Curse is forged, a loathsome rune gestated by the Dung Eater. The reviled curse will last eternally, and the world's children, grandchildren, and every generation hence will be its pustules. If order is defiled entirely, defilement is defilement no more, and for every curse, a cursed blessing. Clearly, the Dung Eater harboured nothing but ill intent. Perhaps his animosity stemmed from his mistreatment. His existence was cruel, and so he cursed the living to suffer as he did. Moving forward, the Tarnished navigates the Forbidden Lands, eventually reaching the Grand Lift of Rold. Raising the Rold Medallion, they are granted access to the mountaintops, the once marching ground during the war against the Giants. Castle Sol lies to the north of this region, ruled over by Commander Niall. The name O'Neill means of Niall, suggesting the pair are father and son. Inside the castle, a spirit notes the following: Lord Mikola, forgive me. The sun has not been swallowed. Our prayers were lacking. Your comrade remains soulless. I will never set my eyes upon it now. Your divine Hellwig tree. From his dialogue, we can infer that some of the denizens of the castle were loyal to Mikola. The young Empyrean aims to restore the soul of his comrade, which in this case may be Godwyn himself. Additionally, the location of Commander O'Neill in the swamp of Aeonia implies that he was allied with Malenia, lending his military might in the war against Radahn, confirming that an alliance existed between the two commanders and the Empyrean siblings. Worship of the eclipse evidently took place in this castle, as seen by the banners draped over the ramparts. It is hypothesized that the eclipse is a symbol of Godwyn. If Ranni is the moon, then Godwyn is the sun. The eclipse being linked to the fallen god is a fitting icon, the sun engulfed by the moon, further enforcing the notion that the soulless comrade mentioned is Godwyn. The inhabitants of Castle Sol, the Mausoleum Knights, and the Walking Mausoleums are intertwined. They are all connected to Godwyn, and perhaps now Mikola, who was researching a means to restore the soul of his fallen brother. Turning back to Commander Niall, he was a veteran of Castle Sol, who offered his leg in exchange for the lives of defeated knights held prisoner. He went on to lead these men as an army of no nation. Interestingly, his suit of armour mentions the following: Niall was the lone survivor who commanded spirits to defend his long-past master. It can be reasonable to assume that his deceased master is Godwyn. Lastly, the commander employs the use of lightning in his arsenal, similar to death lightning used by Godwyn. Dispatching the Hulking Warrior grants the Tarnished access to the missing piece of the Hellwig tree medallion, left half of a split medallion depicting the Hellwig tree. Brandishing the medallion with both halves conjoined will activate the Grand Lift of Rold, granting access to a hidden path. In other words, the secret medallion will guide the bearer to the land of Mikola's Hellwig tree. Should the Tarnished return to the Round Table Hold, they will be invaded by Ensure. By command of Gideon, the killer was let loose to dispose of the Tarnished in order to obtain the Hellwig tree medallion. Posing little threat, the Tarnished dispatches the would-be assassin. When questioned, Gideon shifts the blame from himself to Ensure, stating that the man got ahead of himself. For now, Gideon's life is spared, as the Tarnished respects the pact of the Round Table Hold. One may not bring harm to another within its sacred walls. The Tarnished had only done so in self-defense. Forging ahead, the Tarnished reaches the consecrated snowfield. The route through this land, crossed east to west by a frozen river, leads to Miquella's Haligtree. This is the path taken by those unchosen, though it is a trial all the same. In this region, the liturgical town Odina can be discovered. Entry to Miquella's Haligtree is permitted only to those who light the way. To accomplish this, the Tarnished enters the Everjail. By doing so, they are able to ignite the branches clasped by the numerous statues of Miquella found throughout the town. Once lit, the path to the Haligtree lies open. Finally, the Tarnished arrives at the fabled Haligtree, Sanctuary of the Shunned. Before long, they are halted by Loretta. Unwavering, the Tarnished fells the Great Knight. Arriving at the Brace of Elphael, the Tarnished is reunited with Millicent.
I am of Melania's blood, but in what capacity I know not. I could be sister, daughter, or an offshoot. Whatever the case though, I am certain of a kinship between us. There is something I must return to Melania, the will that was once her own, the dignity, the sense of self that allowed her to resist the call of the Scarlet Rot, the pride she abandoned, to meet Radahn's measure.
Her purpose lies in freeing Melania from the corruption of the Scarlet Rot, an affliction Millicent herself suffers from. Should the Tarnished return to Gowrie, he divulges a sinister plot for Millicent.
She is to meet them very soon, her sisters. If you happen to be present for the girl's fight with her sisters, I ask that you side with the sisters and kill Millicent. It must be done by your hand, no other. Millicent trusts you, rather deeply in fact. Sever that trust. Nurtured by betrayal, her bud will flower most vividly. When Melania ascends to godhood, Millicent too shall be reborn, as a Scarlet Valkyrie.
A choice lies before the Tarnished. Do they allow Millicent to perish and be reborn as a Scarlet Valkyrie, to lose her identity and free will? Or do they lend their sword, enabling her to decide her own fate? Choosing to aid Millicent, the Tarnished returns to the Haligtree. There, they discover her summon sign, a call for help. Once summoned to her realm, we assist Millicent in her battle against her four sisters: Pollyanna, the youngest, Amy, the third, Maureen, the second sister, and lastly, Mary, the eldest. The four sisters were born in the swamp of Aeonia and came to the Haligtree under the aegis of Gowrie. And yet, those buds were doomed to never blossom. Unyielding, Millicent and the Tarnished stand firm together, overcoming the four sisters.
Thank you for lending your hand. Without your help, I could not have defeated that quartet. I feel as if I've been in your debt from beginning to end. Thank you. With your help, I was able to live as my own person. If only in passing. But this is where things end. I paused to even tell you, but I took out the needle myself. Tell whoever put you up to this that if I am to flower into something other than myself, I would rather rot into nothingness as I am. Please. Let me pass alone. The Scarlet Rot writhes now, worse than ever. Soon, I won't be more than a mound of flesh, curse-laden. Untouchable. I wouldn't want such a thing to bring you harm.
Despite her victory, she removed the needle of her own volition, embracing death as Millicent, rather than be reborn as a mindless drone of the Scarlet Rot. Gowrie's plans now ruined, the Tarnished decides to pay him a visit.
Millicent, my daughter, why would you take out the needle? You were so close, so very close, to becoming the fairest of all flowers. Would you disown us, too, as your mother did? We, children of the Scarlet Rot.
If at any point should the Tarnished kill Gowry, his true form is revealed as that of a kindred. The kindred of Rot are the servants of the goddess of Rot, servants that have been forsaken. Abandoned by millennia, and now Millicent, the kindred remain leaderless. All along, Millicent's supposed father was a creature of the Rot, a fanatic of his faith, existing solely to serve. Upon his revival, he states,
Killing me is but an exercise in futility. There are countless bests to choose from.
Hinting that his body is merely a vessel. Should his form die, he can transfer himself to another. To conclude, Millennia was reborn, yet she still forsook the kindred. Gowry failed to raise the four sisters to blossom, and Millicent chose death before the Scarlet Rot took her. Gowry's plans to birth another goddess of Rot were foiled by the Tarnished and Millicent's choice. His faith has truly been tested. Will Gowry abandon his faith, or will he remain devoted? One can only wonder. Nonetheless, the Tarnished returns to Miquella's Haligtree. At its heart stands Millennia, the blade of Miquella. Raising her sword aloft, like the wings of a Valkyrie, Millennia dances through the flower bed, matching her unparalleled strength. The Tarnished, strengthened by the felling of countless legendary foes, is able to overcome her. Surrendering to the Scarlet Rot, Millennia allows the affliction to consume her, as she once did with Radahn, blossoming into the goddess of Rot. Each time the scarlet flower blooms, Millennia's Rot advances. It had bloomed twice already. With the third bloom, she had now become a true goddess, summoning apparitions of herself and bombarding the battlefield with Scarlet Ionia flowers. Her onslaught is relentless. Weathering the storm, the Tarnished discovers an opening, piercing the heart of the goddess. With her final breath, Millennia commends the strength of the Tarnished, stating it resembles that of a true lord. She apologizes to Miquella, noting that she had finally met her match. At last, her body lies silent. Her watch over Miquella had ended. After her passing, the Tarnished obtains the remembrance of the Rot goddess. Miquella and Millennia are both the children of a single god. As such, they are both Empyreans, but suffered afflictions from birth. One was cursed with eternal childhood, and the other harboured Rot within. Many objects found in the lands between make note of a prominent figure known as Saint Trina. Saint Trina is an enigmatic figure. Some say she is a comely young girl, others are sure he is a boy. The only certainty is that their appearance was as sudden as their disappearance. Their androgynous form draws similarities to Miquella's appearance. Priests of Saint Trina's faith would utilize arrows to spread their teachings. These weapons would cause one to fall into the sweet oblivion of sleep. In addition, sleeping pots, enchanted by the incantations of Saint Trina, were used. Like a lullaby or a quagmire, its light purple haze irresistibly draws its victims down into sleep. The use of sleep-related items once again draws parallels to Miquella, who was known to slumber in a cocoon. Lastly, Trina's lily, a symbol of faith in Saint Trina, is almost indistinguishable from Miquella's lily. A key difference between the two is that Miquella's lily looks to have been treated by unalloyed gold, giving it a golden hue. Undeniably, Saint Trina and Miquella are one and the same. Having conquered the Haligtree, the Tarnished makes for the peak of the mountaintops. The remote, desolate eastern summit is the highest point in all the lands between, overlooking even the Flame Peak to the south. Amongst the ruins, the Tarnished encounters the once deceased Yura. The Ronin's corpse has been possessed by the reviled Shabriri. He warns that we are about to sacrifice something precious, the life of a fair maiden, who would be tossed into the fiery forge. In his eyes, this is an unnecessary sacrifice that would stain our image as Elden Lord. Instead, he speaks of another path, one that would spare Melena's life.
Chosen, tarnished, and would-be lord, descend into the depths far below the Erdtree capital. Seek audience with the three fingers and the flame of frenzy. If you inherit the flame of frenzy, your flesh will serve as kindling, and the girl can be spared, setting you on the righteous path of lordship, the path of the Lord of Chaos. Burn the Erdtree to the ground and incinerate all that divides and distinguishes. Ah, may chaos take the world. May chaos take the world!
Shabriri exists for the prosperity of the Flame of Frenzy. Igniting its spark would lead to inconceivable destruction. Should the Tarnished fall for this plot, under the assumption that they are saving Melina, Shabriri would achieve his true goal. For following his advice, we would spare Melina's life, albeit at the cost of extinguishing all others, bringing forth an age of frenzy. For now, the Tarnished leaves Shabriri behind. Patrolling the forge is the colossal fire giant. Evading the swings of the creature, the Tarnished brings the Tyson to his knees. Spiraling into desperation, the giant tears off his wounded limb and calls upon the powers of the fell god. Despite this, the Tarnished is able to neutralize the fire giant, ending the curse placed upon him by Marika. With his death, the way to the Forge of the Giants lies open. Resting at the grace atop the peak, the Tarnished is met by Melina for the last time.
Our accord ends here. And remember, should you rise as the Lord of Chaos, I will kill you. As sure as night follows day, such is my duty, for allowing you the strength of runes.
When Melina first discovered the Tarnished on death's door, she devoted herself to them, knowing full well that they would seek the Elden Ring to become Elden Lord, a violation of the Golden Order. Regardless, Melina placed her faith in the Tarnished. As long as they drew breath, hope remained. At one point in time, Melina confessed she was not a Finger Maiden. Instead, she was searching for her purpose, given to her by her mother inside the Erdtree, potentially signifying that Melina was a descendant of Queen Marika. Supporting this theory is the existence of 3 distinct types of butterfly, found throughout the lands between. The nascent butterfly appears as if it's just emerged from its cocoon for its entire life. This can be likened to Miquella, who spent many of his years slumbering within a cocoon. According to myth, the Aeonian butterflies were once the wings of the goddess of rot herself. And last of all is the smouldering butterfly, which serves as the kindling for a number of items. Each butterfly is intrinsically linked to the children of Marika. The smouldering butterfly's utility as a kindling item is akin to Melina's purpose as a kindling maiden, an occupation mentioned in the description of her weapon, the Blade of Calling. A dagger given to one who set out on a journey to fulfill her duty long ago. The power of its former owner, the kindling maiden, is still apparent. The one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death. Melina may have come to the realization that death must be reintroduced to the lands between. Without death, there is only stagnation, a goal which can only be accomplished with her sacrifice. One thing is for certain, the decision was hers and hers alone.
My purpose was given to me by my mother, but now I act of my own volition. I have set my heart upon the world that I would have, regardless of my mother's designs. I won't allow anyone to speak ill of that, not even you.
Awakening from their slumber, the Tarnished finds themselves in crumbling Farum Azula, a floating temple battered by the winds, a place said to exist beyond the flow of time, inhabited by those of an ancient era, living remnants of the age of the Crucible. Beings such as Crucible Knights, dragons, beasts, and even an ancient Elden Lord, Placidusax. It should be mentioned that these creatures were once bestial. As time passed, they gained intelligence. As a result, the beast's wilderness slipped away as civilization took hold. No longer mindless, wild beasts, the creatures built civilizations of their own. Interestingly, rune fragments can be discovered in the lands between. These stone fragments are believed to have once been part of a temple in the sky. Unquestionably, these shards of stone are pieces of crumbling Farum Azula. In the words of Melina, the one who walks alongside flame shall one day meet the road of destined death. Melina was the flame. Journeying alongside her would bring the Tarnished to stand before the one who harbours destined death. Perhaps the road to the rune of death is Farum Azula itself. Navigating the ruins, the Tarnished is ambushed by Banal. Long ago, Banal mentioned that recusants of Volcano Manor hunt their own kind, in order to accrue power, granting them the strength to revolt against the Erdtree. Banal chose this path to see the will of his brother fulfilled, to break free from the greater will. He also warned us to heed the weight of his words, implying that he would hunt us further down the line. Once defeated, the recusant drops the Blasphemous Claw, a slab of rock engraved with traces of the Rune of Death, a pivotal item to be used against the wielder of destined death, once given as a reward from Ranni to her brother Rykard. His possession of this item hints that Banal was aiming to challenge Malekith. Moreover, his armour reads, "Beasts are drawn to champions and to lords, and this armour befits a champion worthy of becoming a lord." And that is what Banal was, until his maiden threw herself into the fire. Banal's journey mirrors our own. He aspired to become Elden Lord, and as a result, his maiden set herself ablaze. Regrettably, the death of his maiden did not result in the burning of the Erdtree. Therefore, the way to Farum Azula remained shut, preventing Banal from becoming Elden Lord. That is until Melina offered herself to the flame. Seizing the opportunity, Banal attempted to slay the Tarnished, for there can only be one Elden Lord. Despite his best efforts, the recusant was slain, ending his aspirations for lordship. Deeper still, the Tarnished makes contact with Alexander. Seeking to become a great warrior, he challenges the Tarnished, who at this point is one of the strongest warriors in the realm, to a duel. Facing them will be the ultimate test. Reluctantly, the Tarnished accepts the challenge. Sadly, the Iron Fist is no match. His journey ends here.
My thanks. I knew you were the stuff of champions. It was a marvelous battle. I implore you, take what I bequeath from inside me. All vessels are destined to one day break. But the great Alexander lived as a warrior to his last.
After his passing, the Tarnished obtains the Shard of Alexander. Scraps of stewed flesh cling to the shard, and tatters of ornaments can be seen mingled within the slime. Relics of a red-haired champion, it would seem. Warrior jars house the remains of great warriors. The red-haired champion once contained within Alexander was no doubt Radahn. Advancing further, the Tarnished discovers the fractured ruins of a temple. Laying down, the world around them pauses momentarily. Time begins to reverse. The rune is restored to its full glory. Hovering at its center is the Dragon Lord Placidusax. The Dragon Lord, whose seat lies at the heart of the storm beyond time, is said to have been Elden Lord in the age before the Erdtree. Once his god was fled, the Lord continued to await its return. Having felled countless foes, the Tarnished silences the Elden Lord. The leader of the Age of the Crucible is no more. Crossing the vast stretches of the crumbling temple, the Tarnished reaches the uppermost peak of Farum Azula. At the center of a vast hall is the familiar beast clergyman, previously encountered in the bestial sanctum under the name Geraint. If Geraint had been given Deathroot prior to this encounter, he will recognize the Tarnished. In spite of this, he vows that none will take destined death again. Determined, the Tarnished stands firm in the face of adversity, retaliating and weakening the beast. Realizing the fight will not be easily won, Geraint calls upon the power of the Rune of Death. Plunging his blade into the rune shackled around his hand, the beast reveals his true form as Malekith, the Black Blade, shadow of Queen Marika. A torrent of crimson fire coats his blade. Assuming his primary form, the beast leaps into the air, setting free the remnants of destined death from his blade. Empowered by death, the shadow is relentless in his assault. Recalling the blasphemous claw obtained earlier, the Tarnished activates the artifact. In doing so, they are able to momentarily nullify the blows of the Black Blade, causing Malekith to recoil and swing blindly. Utilizing the narrow window of opportunity, the Tarnished delivers death to Malekith. As his consciousness slips into the void, the shadow begs Marika for forgiveness, stating that the Golden Order cannot be restored. His remembrance reads, Malekith was a shadow-bound beast given to his Empyrean. Marika's sole need of her shadow was a vessel to lock away destined death. Even then, she betrayed him. Charged with protecting the Rune of Death, Malekith voluntarily exiled himself. It is worth noting that if the Tarnished had slayed Geraint, he would cry out,
Marika, why wouldst thou gull me? Why shatter?
Cheated by Marika, he questions why she shattered the Elden Ring. There was no reason for Malekith to live in isolation, defending the Rune of Death, if Marika's plan all along was to shatter the Elden Ring. His years of servitude amounted to naught, as the Tarnished had now claimed the Rune of Death.
Of death is unbound. And the lands between are shrouded by death's dark fate. But the flames will also burn the impenetrable thorns. Farewell it is then. You'll be Elden Lord yet.
The Tarnished stands once more in the royal capital, drowning in an ocean of ash, a result of the burning of the Erdtree, a scenery composed of debris and death. Before venturing deeper into the capital, the Tarnished returns to the Round Table Hold. Scorched by the burning of the Erdtree, the sanctuary of the Tarnished will not hold for much longer. Sadly, Enya appears to have passed away. Before departing, the Tarnished converses with Roderika. She mentions that Hugh's shackles are now broken. He is free to leave, but chooses to remain. Roderika implores the Tarnished to convince Hugh to abandon the hold. Conversing with the smithing master, he remarks,
I've upset the girl. She says that now my chains are broken, I'm free. That if I stay here, I will be ruined with the Round Table. What use have I for freedom now? I smith weapons to slay a god. I have lived and will die doing so upon this spot. Is there any other way? Use one.
My masterpiece to slay a god. That's all I've lived for. And my promise to Queen Marika. But do me a favor and do look after the girl. I can't hold on much longer. I'm going the way of the Round Table. It was a great honor to smith your weapons during my time here. Allow me to call you this just once before it ends, my lord. For that is what you are.
In the past, Hugh was unable to forge a god-killing weapon for Marika, but this time he had forged a masterpiece, one that can slay a god, the Tarnished's weapon. After a time, Hugh will fail to recognize the Tarnished. As the Round Table fades into oblivion, so too does his memory. Returning to Roderika, she notes that Hugh had also forgotten her. Choosing to remain at the smith's side, she makes one final request.
Please, become Elden Lord. Hugh was always saying that you were a lord to him. So slay her with the weapons he smithed. Slay the god Marika, who cursed us all.
Leaving the Round Table hold for the last time, the Tarnished warps to Lendel. Close by, the Tarnished is met by Corin.
Oh, it's you. I finally come to understand. The Master was nothing more than a madman. Enchanted by a vain and ruinous delusion, he rejected the perfection of the Golden Order, seeking to supplant our glorious faith with his own. Could there be a more pitiable comedy? Look at it. The culmination of perfection, burning before our very eyes.
Brother Corin served Goldmask due to his profound faith in the Golden Order. However, Goldmask discovered the Order's flaws and as a result sought to rebuild it. The priest, still loyal to the existing order, believes this is a sin, viewing Goldmask as a blasphemer. Corin's attire resembles that of an exiled prophet. These prophets foresaw that their faith would end in flames. The flame of ruin is anathema to the Erd Tree, but prophets sometimes glimpse it within the faith all the same. Sadly, when this occurs, their sole reward is banishment. If Corin was such a prophet, it is clear that his faith in the Golden Order is unshakable. Persecuted and chased from his homeland, yet still loyal to the Order of old. At the base of the Colosseum nearby, the corpse of Goldmask can be found. Laying on his body is the Mending Rune of Perfect Order, rune discovered by the noble Goldmask, used to restore the fractured Elden Ring when brandished by the Elden Lord, a rune of transcendental ideology which will attempt to perfect the Golden Order. Once more, the Tarnished had obtained the means to bring forth a new age, to rebuild the Golden Order. Climbing the steps on the path to the throne, the Tarnished is halted by Gideon. The sycophant at first manipulated the Tarnished, hoping to become Elden Lord himself. But now he declares that none should take the throne, noting that Queen Marika hopes for the Tarnished to struggle unto eternity. In his attempt to prevent the Tarnished from rising to the status of Elden Lord, he faces them in combat, utilizing the magics of fallen demigods. Still, the Tarnished overcomes Gideon. His armor reads, "Knowledge begins with the recognition of one's ignorance, the realization that the search for knowledge is unending." But when Gideon glimpsed into the will of Queen Marika, he shuddered in fear. At the end, that should not be. What drove Gideon to abandon his ambition for lordship? Some suggest it was the realization that Marika wished for the Tarnished to struggle eternally, to leave the Elden Ring shattered. In addition, perhaps Gideon learned the truth behind the Golden Order and why Marika shattered the Elden Ring. The revelation that the Queen was merely a puppet, controlled by the strings of an outer being, may have been too much to bear. In truth, the idea that Marika had any control was but an illusion, one which Gideon opted to maintain. What use is an Elden Lord if they are merely a slave to an outer god? On the contrary, what hope does one have in slaying a god, should they choose to defy them? After all, Marika herself failed in this regard. Gideon had gained true knowledge after his long exchange with the Two Fingers, discovering all had been broken long ago, that the trembling fingers bent with age, and the Erdtree itself were no exception. Like cattle who marched to their doom, the Tarnished were unaware of the reality they faced. Only when Gideon learned the truth was he freed from his ignorance, coming to the conclusion that the Tarnished exist in a world in which they have no control. In his mind, the pursuit of becoming Elden Lord is meaningless, for this title would grant them nothing. For these reasons, Gideon abandoned all hope. Edging ever closer to the Erdtree, the Tarnished is blocked once more. Cradling the deceased Omen King is Godfrey, first Elden Lord. Brandishing his splintered axe, the Lord assails the Tarnished. Like a raging tempest, Godfrey storms the battlefield. Posing a significant threat, Godfrey realizes he must fight the Tarnished unshackled. To do this, he slaughters Sarosh, thus removing his limitations. Godfrey abandons his regal name and relinquishes his axe and armor, reverting back to the primal Hoaraloo, chieftain of the Badlands. His unparalleled strength shakes the foundations of the city. Even with all the strength he could muster, it would not be enough. After a long and grueling battle, the warrior is bested. With his final breath, he proclaims that the Tarnished strength befits a crown. All that remains is to venture into the heart of the Erdtree. Upon entry, Marika's enslaved vessel falls to the ground, and Radagon of the Golden Order enters the fray. Broken hammer in hand, the husk of a god attempts to snuff out the Tarnished. Radagon delivers blow after blow, each strike like a hammer to an anvil. The once mighty god is far from his peak. Over the years, his somber duty weighed upon him, eating away at his soul. No longer at full power, Radagon is unable to resist the Tarnished. The god falls to his knees, his lifelong duty finally at an end. From the depths of the Erdtree rises the Elden Beast, the vassal beast of the Greater Will, and living incarnation of the concept of order. The true form of the Elden Ring. Its form resembles that of a supercluster, groups of galaxies shining within its frame. Displaying no sympathy, the creature fashions the sacred relic greatsword from Radagon's corpse, his ribcage still visible at the center of the guard. A sword wrought from the remains of a god who should have lived a life eternal. An apt view of the relationship between the self-serving outer gods and the deities of the lands between, viewing them as nothing but disposable tools. This tumultuous battle will decide the fate of all. Endeavouring to succeed where Marika had failed, the Tarnished charges the cosmic entity. Each swing of the beast is a hurricane, barraging the Tarnished with shimmering spears of golden light. Conjuring black holes and nebulas, the deity displays its cosmic wrath. The flame of ambition will not be extinguished. Tempered by their journey, the loss of their comrades, and the faith of their allies, the Tarnished evades each and every strike. There is no room for error. Wielding the god-slaying weapon forged by Hugh, the Tarnished, with haste and purpose, delivers a mighty blow to the Elden Beast. Standing before the shattered body of Queen Marika, with all shards of the Elden Ring in their possession, the Tarnished must make one last choice, deciding the fate of the lands between. Kneeling before the monarch, the Tarnished can choose to sustain the Broken Age. By ascending the throne of Elden Lord, they can maintain the current splintered order, thus continuing the cycle, bringing forth an age of fracture. Should the Tarnished present the mending rune of perfect order discovered by Goldmask, they can pursue another path. Goldmask came to the realization that the order must be rebuilt. Little purpose lies in prolonging a fractured age. Instead, the very foundations of the Golden Order must be mended. The noble Goldmask lamented what had become of the hunters, how easy it is for the learning and learnedness to be reduced to the ravings of fanatics. All the good and the great wanted, in their foolishness, was an absolute evil to contend with. Does such a notion exist in the fundamentals of order? Believing themselves to be good, the Order hunted those who opposed them. In reality, what some may view as good, others perceive as evil, leading to conflicts with no end in the lands between. Goldmask arrived at the conclusion that the current imperfection of the Golden Order, or the instability of ideology, can be blamed upon the fickleness of the gods, no better than men. Using the Mending Rune, the Tarnished brings forth an age of order, one without gods. Alternatively, the Tarnished can pursue a world of damnation designed by the Dung Eater, introducing the blessing of despair to the world. The lands between is plunged into a blighted reality with no escape. A cacophony of screams engulf the horizon. All who are living, all who are born, will befell the Omen curse. The Omen face discrimination no longer, for they will be the norm, not the exception. But make no mistake, this conclusion is a curse, and a curse alone. Another path remains. By using the Mending Rune of the Death Prince, birthed by the undead Godwyn and Fear, life within death is introduced to the Order. No longer shall people die and return to the Erdtree. Instead, they will be duskborn beings. There is some irony to be found here, as the Golden Order values life after death, as long as spirits are returned to the Erdtree. Anything else is sacrilege. But now, without judgment or persecution, the dead shall walk the earth. For one day, all things will die, only to be reborn as the undead. Fear and the Tarnished had accomplished that which the Order feared most, the end of their reign and the rise of those who live in death, an age of the Duskborn. On the other hand, had the Tarnished followed Vike's path, Melina would attempt to dissuade them from pursuing the Flame of Frenzy. Ignoring her guidance, the Tarnished would succeed where Vike had once failed and embrace the Three Fingers, thus eliminating the need for Melina's sacrifice, as the Tarnished, utilizing the Flame of Frenzy, could burn the Erdtree and its thorns. Sitting upon the throne as the Lord of Chaos, the world is torn asunder, the living, their sins, and the world itself, let it be cinders. Desire to rule had broken this land. Perhaps this was a just ending, eliminating a land beyond salvation, never to be manipulated again. Others may perceive this as cowardice, electing the path of omnicide, making no attempt to repair this fractured realm. Having robbed Melina of her choice, she knows that the Lord of Frenzied Flame is no lord at all, since the land they would preside over would be lifeless. Following through with this plan would only invoke her wrath. Damning the world to spare her life may be considered a fair bargain by some, for many would prefer Melina to be alive and filled with hatred than to die in obscurity. Amidst the ashes, clasping the burnt whistle of Torrent, Melina swears to deliver destined death to the Tarnished. For the first time, we bear witness to Melina's once sealed eye, suggesting that the unsealing of the Rune of Death triggered its opening. Due to its unique colour, many wonder if she was once the Gloam-Eyed Queen, although this is never proven. By her own admission, Melina states that she's burned and bodiless, much like the Lunar Princess, implying her form is merely a vessel, although this may be a reference to her calling as a kindling maiden, for they will be burnt and bodiless once fulfilling their duty. Furthermore, a unique marking can be seen upon her face. Some theorize that it resembles a beast's claw, symbolizing Malekith and destined death. Conversely, it more accurately depicts a bird's foot, perhaps linking it to the twin bird, an envoy of an outer god, and mother of the death birds. Ranni too has a marking on the opposite side of her face, though there is little information regarding its meaning. From the description of the Grey Violet, we know that the ghost flame tended to by the death birds had a violet hue. The twin bird is represented by the colours blue and red, the same shades which are linked to Ranni and Melina, colours associated with ice and fire. When the two colours are combined, it forms the colour purple, once more drawing parallels between Melina, Ranni and the Deathbirds. Either way, her true identity remains shrouded in mystery. All but one path remains, the Age of the Stars. With Ranni replacing Marika and the Tarnished as their consort, a new course is charted for mankind, an order freed from the grip of the Greater Will.
Upon the order I envision, mine will be an order not of gold, but the stars and moon of the chill night. I would keep them far from the earth beneath our feet. As it is now, life and souls and order are bound tightly together. But I would have them at a great remove, and have the certainties of sight, emotion, faith, and touch all become impossibilities, which is why I would abandon this soil with mine order. Wouldst thou come to me even now, my one and only lord?
Ranni seeks to create an order that cannot be touched or seen, one led by the Dark Moon Outer God, which will not influence the lives of those in the lands between, as it remains far from the earth. Oblivious to the existence of the Dark Moon, Ranni, and the Tarnished, no faith can rise from the living, none shall worship them, or wage wars in their name. Absconding the throne, the Tarnished accompanies Ranni into the cosmos. With the Elden Ring in their possession, the people of the lands between are spared from its influence. The founding of this age was not achieved alone. Many had placed faith in our cause. Their stories, their sacrifices, enabled us to transcend our predestination. If this odyssey has taught us anything, it is that one must be brave if they are to control their fate. Although the brave may not live forever, it is the cautious who do not live at all. No longer would the living be pawns of the unknown. Never again would they look to false deities for guidance. The Age of the Stars is one of freedom, and with that comes fear, uncertainty, and death. To live is to suffer, to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. An adage that both Ranni and the Tarnished encompass, suffering for their cause, so that they may ease the burden for those who come after.
The fallen leaves tell a story of how a Tarnished became Elden Lord in our home, across the fog, the lands between.
Make of thyselves that which ye desire, be it a lord, be it a god. But should ye fail to become aught at all, ye will be forsaken, amounting only to sacrifices.
Your ascendancy requires her sacrifice, whether she wishes it or not.
Goodbye, my companion. Goodbye, Torrent.
But how would the Lord, crowned so, be looked upon?
Thy kind are all of a piece. Godric the Golden, the twin prodigies, Miquella and Malenia, General Radahn, Praetor Rykard, Luna Princess Ranni, willful traitors, all pillagers, emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Great Elden Ring, root of the Golden Order,
anchor of all lands, giver of grace, wellspring of all joy.
Why is the round table burning in ruins?
Look at it. The culmination of perfection. Burning before our very eyes.
The land has been tainted by madness since the shattering of the Elden Ring.
I thought that I feared nothing. Kill me, please.
I have given everything.
At last, we have concluded the Elden Ring trilogy. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. Thank you so much for watching. We are extremely grateful for reaching 90,000 subscribers, and we look forward to celebrating 100k with you in the near future. We would like to thank our patrons, who have gone above and beyond to allow us to pursue this passion of ours. Please visit our page at patreon.com/thebrotherscode and take a look at what we have to offer. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on our future projects, including the much anticipated Demon's Souls story explained. Leave a like to show your support and help spread our content to a wider audience, and comment down below letting us know what you thought of the video. Thank you, we'll be back with more soon.